What's up, Taiwan? I'm Laurel Stewart with the news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan People's Party founder Wen-je may soon be formally detained after his arrest on Saturday. But his party and supporters are crying foul, attacking both the corruption allegations against him and the conduct of investigators on the case. John Van Trieste has the latest.
Through the night, fans of Wen-je, the former Taipei mayor and founder of Taiwan's third party, held vigil outside the Taipei prosecutor's office. They say talk of corruption during Ko's mayorship has been fabricated, and they're angry at Ko's arrest on Saturday after he refused to go on with hours of questioning about alleged profiteering from a shopping mall.
如果阿北有错，那我们一样也会不支持他，但是我们相信他是清白的。我们大家都是自发性自己来的。
Now, prosecutors want Ko formally detained. Ko's Taiwan People's Party is enraged. At a Sunday morning press conference, it suggested prosecutors leak details of the case to turn the public against Ko. It also says investigators took documents and asked questions that have nothing to do with the case being investigated, looking for anything they might be able to pin on him.
用金华城的案子申请到搜索票，结果不仅在搜索的时候违法搜索台湾民众党中央党部，进行摸索式的钓鱼搜索。
And party leaders also said Ko's relationship to the mall had already been resolved with Taipei city officials back when he was still mayor. They said reopening the case and questioning him about other scandals shows democracy and the rule of law are under threat.
你连搜索你都可以这样，连基本的 ABC 都不熟，下次去你家去你办公室是这样搜索，可以吗？
If the request to detain Ko is granted, it will bring a party that had made much of being anti-corruption into a deeper crisis, leaving its future as uncertain as it's ever been. But party leaders seem determined that no matter what, they won't go down without a fight. Andy Xue and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Protesters are gathering in support of Wen-je ahead of his hearing later today. Leslie Liao reports from outside the prosecutor's office in Taipei.
It's been a tumultuous weekend in Taiwanese politics after Taiwan People's Party chair and former presidential candidate Wen-je was arrested on suspicion of corruption. Prosecutors are now asking to detain Ko for an extended period as they build their case against him. The court is hearing that application today, and if successful, Ko will remain in detention for 2 months. Now, the arrest of any major opposition politician is bound to be controversial, and outside of the prosecutor's office, dozens of Wen-je supporters have shown up. The atmosphere is tense.
检调有点不公正，有点双重标准，所以希望在这边能够得到一个他们正式的回复，告诉我们为什么他们要这样子拘留柯文哲这么久。
Ko is facing a slew of corruption charges related to a land development project during his time as Taipei mayor. If the court grants the prosecutor's request, then Wen-je will be held incommunicado, which means he will not be able to have contact with anybody except for his lawyer while in detention. And that's because prosecutors believe that Ko may try to collude with other suspects in this case or try to destroy evidence related to it. All eyes are now on the outcome of this hearing. Patrick Sun and Leslie Liao in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
President Lai Ching-te says his government will continue working towards transitional justice in Taiwan.
这是一段记忆，甲未记的斗争啊！咱必须要不断努力，让过去受到伤害的人会当早一日恢复平安。
Lai was speaking at an event for victims of state injustice in Taiwan, referring to the period of one-party rule under the Kuomintang from the end of the Second World War through to the late 1980s. He promised that the cabinet would push forward policies aiming for truth and reconciliation to try to unite the country. Travel agencies are calling for an end to the government's ban on sending tour groups to China. That's as China opens tourism to Taiwan's outlying islands for the first time in years. Ed Moon reports.
For Taiwan's Matsu Islands, the arrival of these Chinese visitors is a breakthrough and a sign of hope for things to come. between a souring of relations with Taiwan in 2019 and COVID travel restrictions in 2020, Chinese tourists have been barred from travel to anywhere in Taiwan. But China is starting to lift this ban. First, in the Matsu Islands, and soon, it says, in the Jinmen Islands as well. Both are Taiwanese outposts much closer to the Chinese coast than to Taipei, and they are hungry for the return of the lucrative Chinese tourist market. While only residents of China's coastal Fujian province are allowed to visit for now, some politicians are happy with the development.
这一次的开放无疑会为金门带来一注非常大的活水，我想对我们金门的各行各业、民生经济都有很大的帮助。
Taiwan's travel industry hopes the government will make a goodwill gesture of its own. Earlier in the year, Taiwan banned group tours to China, part of a pattern of worsening ties. But Chinese destinations are popular, and travel agencies want the ban lifted. The government hasn't made any commitments, but says it too is happy to see at least a limited tourism from China resume.
我们乐见大陆方面恢复福建居民赴金门旅游。那政府已经多次表示欢迎陆客到金门马祖旅游。
Whether tourism between the two sides will reopen further, though, is unclear. China maintains its claims to Taiwan, and ties are as fraught as they have been in decades. But for the outlying islands, at least, the prospect of Chinese tourists returning just in time for China's long national holiday in October is a welcome prospect. Luffy Lee, John Van Trieste, and Ed Moon for TaiwanPlus.
September 21st marks National Disaster Preparedness Day in Taiwan, and the government has kicked off a month of activities to raise awareness. The cabinet is promoting how to stay safe during disasters like earthquakes and typhoons. It comes after a year that has already seen the country rocked by some of the strongest tremors and storms in recent decades. One of the aims is making sure Taiwan makes better use of its existing resources.
全国呢有5万多名的那个防救灾志工跟义消，所以呢消防署里面呢希望能够将这些资源能够协助大家一起救灾。
Emergency responders have brought a bushfire under control in northern Taiwan. A helicopter and more than 40 fire engines worked to extinguish the fire spreading across a hillside in New Taipei. No injuries have been reported, but the fire department is warning people about smoke still lingering in the area. At least 6 people are dead and over 100 injured as the remnants of Typhoon Shanshan continue to batter Japan's coast with heavy rain. Shanshan was downgraded from a typhoon to a tropical depression over the weekend, but its impact continues to be felt as the storm turns back inland. Shanshan has dropped nearly 3 feet of rain on the worst affected areas, leading to flight and rail disruption across southern Japan. China and the Philippines are accusing each other of ship ramming in the South China Sea. The Philippine Coast Guard released footage showing multiple clashes between the two vessels. Manila says a Chinese vessel intentionally rammed into one of its ships. Beijing says they were protecting their territorial rights after a Philippine vessel deliberately smashed into one of their ships near the Sabina Shoal. That's an area both countries claim as their territory. It's the latest in a growing number of clashes in the disputed waters. More than a month after Typhoon Gaemi battered the country, many of Taiwan's remote indigenous communities are still getting back on their feet. Rick Glauert reports.
This is Baling village in Taiwan's central mountain range. It's home to about 1,500 people, most of which are from Taiwan's indigenous Dayan group. When Typhoon Gaemi hit just over a month ago, it was the largest typhoon to hit Taiwan in nearly a decade. Here in Baling, the entire village was forced to relocate to evacuate for their safety. There were warnings that the wind and rain would cut off this community from the rest of Taiwan.
撤离当天的时间大概2天的时间，24号接获到撤离，那大概用2个半小时去跟当地的派出所，然后一起做一些劝导，然后带这些协助带居民去做这个撤离的一个动作。然后大概在我们的撤离点大概2天，对，大概第3天全部都回来了。
Villages like this are hours away from the big cities and infrastructure services. It makes them more vulnerable to natural disasters. The recent typhoon has reminded them how easy it is to get cut off and that they can't always rely on others to help. That's why they've been building and restocking stores like this with enough basic necessities to keep the village going until help can arrive. Isolated communities like this know that when disaster strikes, they will have to rely on one another to survive. John Su and Rick Glowett in Baling Village for TaiwanPlus.
Sundance Film Festival Asia returned to Taiwan this year, and the industry looks to the spectacle as it announced the winner of the country's short film competition. But local professionals say there are deep-rooted issues in local filmmaking that can't just be swept under the red carpet. Yu Chen Lai has the story.
Winner is Shuojia Lin Qianyu.
恭喜领导演。
Taiwanese director Lin Qianyu wins jury prize for Best Short Film at this year's Sundance Film Festival Asia. Her work, called Suojiang, follows the story of a locksmith who's lost his way in life. It's the second film that Lin has ever made, and for many young Taiwanese creatives like her, an international award like this could make or break their career.
As an independent filmmaker， 就是要想办法让自己除了在台湾被认同以外，也要让自己的可能 skills 或者是创作的风格在国外被看见。
Taiwan's government says is working to address the problems caused by the country's limited market size. The head of the Taiwan Creative Content Agency, an investment office set up by Taiwan's Ministry of Culture, says he's ready to provide more funding for the film industry. But Taiwan's film industry is also infamous for its long working hours and delayed payments, especially for fresh graduates just entering the scene. Even for nationally acclaimed veterans such as musician Lim Gyong, making a living can sometimes feel uncertain. Lim has been composing film scores for over 30 years and took home a soundtrack award at the Cannes Festival for the 2015 film The Assassin. He was on stage at Sundance Asia, sharing his experiences with industry professionals from around the world.
因为我从来不晓得我做完了之后，大部分的导演会给我多少钱。我都没有跟他们谈，也没有跟他们签约。然后做完之后好像没有钱，他们觉得要给我多少钱，我就给我多少钱。
These are structural issues that no amount of award trophies can fix. But films are still being made. And Shu, who directed last year's short film winner at Sundance Asia, is now getting ready to make his first feature-length movie.
我会觉得第一个场面会很想要让它尽量简单跟纯粹，但是很明确自己要讲跟探讨的是什么，所以我会想要用一个很简单的方式看可以执行这个东西，但应该还是会申请一些政府的补助。
Anne's personal savings are going to run out by the end of this year. He says he'd rather work part-time jobs in unrelated industries to support himself, rather than give in to commercial pressures. And his crew feels the same way. Composer Lim Gyong says Taiwan's imperfect environment should not stop future generations from making movies.
在你缺乏有限制的时候就去做，去突破那个限制，因为最终还是要表现你的作品嘛。
Whether or not Taiwanese film can break through to the international stage depends on the survival of its youngest filmmakers. And they're banking that as long as there is a desire to make films, audiences will keep wanting to enjoy them. Kamashi, Patrick Chen, Sandy Chi, and Yu Chen Lai for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan has scored a silver medal in table tennis at the Paralympic Games in Paris. That's after duo Lin Ziyu and Tian Shaowen lost to Australia in the finals. It's the first medal for Taiwan's Paralympic table tennis players in 8 years. And it's Taiwan's second medal in the Paralympics this year after Shanshan won bronze in Taekwondo. Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Finally, check out this Circus School in Morocco, training young people in circus arts. I'm Laurel Stewart. Take care. See you next time.